I think I might be on. Cheers, everyone. If anyone's out there, my name's Paul Reed, I'm the teapotmOnk, and this is my second in a series of 3 short videos on the best books on Tai Chi in the known universe. And today we're looking at 3 versions of the Tao Te Ching that actually make sense. So, welcome to this 3-part series on the best books on Tai Chi and Taoism in the known universe. Missed yesterday's post on the best 5 books on Tai Chi? Well, scroll down this timeline and you should find it somewhere there. Hi Lindsay, good to see you. Thank you for dropping in. So today I'm looking at the Tao Te Ching, this poetic collection of abstract thought succinctly served with side salad that everyone and their dog quotes to support their point of view, including me. And indeed, one of Taoism's criticisms is that its vagueness encourages people to justify pretty much anything. But on the other hand, its lack of rigid structure reminds us that things are perhaps less fixed than we think. Everything shifts, everything moves about, everything is vibrating, becoming its opposite and its opposite again. So let's run over these 3 versions of this classic text, a text no doubt authored by more than just Mr. Lao Tzu himself, as history suggests, and see what we make of the more contemporary versions of this classic book. So in 3rd place, I've got John Lash's The Tai Chi Journey, and today I've actually got a cover for you to look at. Look at that. I know it's a digital cover, but my paperbacks are all in Spain, so I've had to just screen grab the covers for you. But I'll include a list of these books in the notes at the end of this live video. So this is John Lash. Well, that's not John Lash. I don't think he looks anything like that, especially today. Quite an old book, really. Comes from, I think, from the 80s, probably, something around then. He wrote this version of the Tao Te Ching specifically for students of Tai Chi. Very brave to have done at that time. And it's really for those like myself who found the original perhaps too abstract to apply to their art. Whereas Lash, he takes the book verse by verse and extracts meaning specifically for Tai Chi practitioners. And for me, this was one of the most formative books in my practice because it brought home how much of the art that we think of as all these movements and breathing techniques and applications have their roots strongly in this philosophy, and they can be linked back to texts such as the Tao Te Ching. It's John Lash that first pointed that out to me. So the book's very easy to read. You can plunge in almost any page. You don't have to read it in a linear fashion and still find something very thoughtful, well presented, and it's a great classic, one to definitely keep for in your library. What's that? What are you saying, Lindsay? I can't see that. Hang on a sec. First ever born, recommend friendly place. Aha, good. Anyway, so I don't think you can get this in the digital version. I think you have to get, I think you have to go and hunt out a paperback. I don't think it's ever been made as a sort of Kindle version, but I might be wrong. I do know some people have screen grabbed it and turned it into a PDF, which you might be able to scout around and find somewhere. Otherwise, check it out anyway. Anyway, it's worth getting a second-hand copy on Amazon. They're not too expensive, I don't think. Okay, so that was number 3. In number 2, second position, is the classic Getting Right with the Tao by Ron Hogan, whose succinct phrases include such things as stop doing stuff all the time and just watch what happens. This was his version of the Tao Te Ching, reduced to these beautifully simple, succinct expressions, much more common and colloquial that we all use. It was only when a friend of mine, and thank you, Rick, you know who you are, introduced me to Ron Hogan many years back now, his version of the Tao Te Ching, that it finally all began to make sense to me. Because Ron Hogan rewrites the book in the language of a Westerner in the 20th century. And in so doing, breathes life into the dustier corners of the original. I'm going to try and find you a cover to have a look at. So suddenly you can see the applications or the context that previously had escaped you. And all with a healthy respect and at the same time irreverence for the philosophical roots. There you go, that's the cover. Ron's book, an absolute essential, Hello from Montreal. Hello, Gabriel from Montreal. Hello from South Devon at the moment. Who's that? So, okay. So Ron, yes, he originally wrote it. Just an interesting by fact here. Ron actually wrote this book and distributed it online for free to everybody. I thought it was a beautiful thing to do. But now it's available on Amazon as a digital book, just a couple of pounds, or I think you can order it as a paperback. And I really think it's worth supporting him in his efforts, so I would go over there and have a look. Last year I narrated some of his texts and put them onto video. So if you haven't seen that, I'll add a link to the show notes underneath in case you've never seen that video. Where can you find it? Well, if you go along to beatrice.com/wordpress/Tao Te Ching, I'll include a link underneath. You can visit his website. Now, why would you bother to visit his website? This is not a plug for Ron Hogan. I don't know the guy. But I would suggest visiting his website and not just Amazon, because he's an interesting character. And you will come across something very interesting on his website that you won't find on Amazon. And this is a beautifully spoken, narrated version of Getting Right with the Tao by a woman called Emma Clark, an English woman. And she offers that for free from her website. So you could get this beautiful audio version of this classic version of the Tao Te Ching by Ron Hogan, spoken with a lovely English accent, for free. Stuff I give you. No wonder you subscribe. I hope you've liked this page. So that was number 2. We just have one left, which in first place. Anyone guess? Who gets first place? Anyone? I bet you thought I was going to say the Tao of Pooh. Well, you're wrong. Number 1 is Lao Tzu Tao Te Ching by the recently departed Ursula K. Le Guin. Quote from Ursula's edition: "To believe that our beliefs are permanent truths which encompass reality is a sad arrogance. To let go of that belief is to find safety." Ursula writes at the beginning of this interpretation, and it is this, her dismantling of what we mean by truth and knowledge, our use of these concepts, and how we've come to misuse them in appropriating power, that first drew me to her work. She also brings 2 other desperately needed updates to the Tao Te Ching. Ursula's version. Inscribe it onto your brain. This is the version you really want to get. So she introduced these updates to the original version that previous interpreters, specifically male writers, had conveniently overlooked. First is her gender rewriting of the central figure, the sage, the wise man. In her book, the sage becomes the wise ones. Just a little difference, just a little subtle difference. And at last we can leave behind those inferences of wisdom belonging in an exclusively male domain. And it's astounding that all these writers in history never challenged this historical exclusivity, particularly when dealing with concepts such as yin and yang, balance, male, female. Well, what? I mean, why? What? Who? What? Anyway, so... too right. It is the go-to version. It is most definitely the go-to version. But perhaps that trap of interpreting the world in this very yang, masculine way is part of Tai Chi's history too. We shouldn't discard the fact that that influence has come into this art too. It's a controversy largely sustained, maintained, perpetuated by the dogmatism of male practitioners and teachers. You know who you are. You out there, I can see you squirming in your seats. Anyway, for me, a very personal but crucial element of Ursula's version is also her injection of libertarian thought into her work. She highlights what many others have suggested, that Taoism has a social and political agenda that veers towards that of libertarian anarchism. Sometimes, anyway, she wraps it up a lot very succinctly in many of her novels, such as the classic Dispossessed, if you've ever read that. And if you're suddenly reeling or falling off your seat and going, what? The thought of politics or social justice being introduced into Tai Chi or Chinese philosophy horrifies you, then I'd suggest two things to do. First, come down off your ivory tower. 21st century living necessitates teachers who can function in this century and not 18th century feudal China. And secondly, go and look up what anarchism means. Don't think it's about throwing bombs around the place. You might be surprised how much of the ideology overlaps with Taoist thought. Okay, that's my top 3. So that's it. That ends this live broadcast and the second in my series of 3 on the essential books of Tai Chi and Taoism. Tomorrow, the same time, the same place, I'll be looking at Taoism, not merely the stanzas of the Tao Te Ching, that for many don't clarify in detail what the philosophy is really all about. I'm going to be introducing you to 4 books on Taoism that really attempts to capture this most elusive ideology in a refreshing way. And a couple of those I've never mentioned to anyone before. So if you'd like to find out about something very interesting and a couple that are really going to surprise you, see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Do leave a comment if you have any other versions you think should have been on this list or maybe shouldn't have been on this list. Add them below in the comments. Do you think I've been too anarchic, for example? Let me know. Too yin, too yang, too yang. I don't know. Let me know. Write something down. Want more on Tai Chi and 24/7 living? Find me over at teapotmOnk.com. Otherwise, see you tomorrow. And thank you for your time.